for who you are.
Yes.
That God is worthy of our worship, worthy of our praise. He's God who's above all. And we just come to worship you this evening. We come to learn from your word this evening. We come to expect you to open our heart, open our ears, to be able to take in your truth and to change us through your truth. Impact our lives through your truth. Impact our church through your truth. And we commit this service into your hands. Pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
You may be seated. May be seated. Pastor Tommy, I believe, is at IES Central today and has asked me to share. If we can open our Bibles to Acts chapter 10, if it's okay, I think I'm going to go without the mic. Can you hear me all the way in the back? Or is it a challenge? Where's the best place to put this?
Put it on top of the keyboard.
Thank you. Let's look at Acts chapter 10. We're going to read a good amount here. One of my favorite stories. At Caesarea, there's a man named Cornelius, a centurion in what was known as the Italian regiment. He and all his family were devout and God-fearing. He gave generously to those in need and prayed to God regularly. So here's one of our main characters. And who is he? He's a Roman, a centurion, a powerful man whose religion, whose country, whose background does not know God. But he wants to know God. He wants to know God. And God sees him. And so I ask you, my first point is, with what eyes do we see people? I hope that we see every single person as someone who maybe wants to know God. Doesn't matter what country. Again, his whole countrymen, you take a survey of all the Romans, there's not a bunch of them standing around wanting to know who Jesus is or wanting to know the gospel. Yeah, they don't need that. They're too powerful. Right? They don't need the gospel. And yet, in the midst of them, here's one person who does. And he knows it. He knows it. And so I hope that we, as we look out at our Muslim brothers and sisters out there, as we look out at powerful people who look like they're beyond religion, as we look out at anybody, I hope we see people who just might have a desire to know Almighty God. And if they don't have that desire yet, maybe God will call us to bring that desire to them, to share truth with them. So here's our person in verse 3. One day at about 3 in the afternoon, he had a vision. He distinctly saw an angel of God who came to him and said, Cornelius. So this guy was so focused in his heart and his desire that God answered was sending an angel. How amazing is that? And the angel said, Cornelius, and Cornelius stared at him in fear. What is it, Lord? Yeah, so he stared at him in fear. I've never seen anything like you. This amazing angel standing right in front of me. What is it, Lord? I'm ready to hear anything that you have to say. I want to ask you, what if you were God? And you have a desire for Cornelius to deeply believe in you for the rest of his life. What would you want that angel to say? What would you want that angel to do? Can you think of all the possibilities? Right, that angel could have put on quite a show, right, to convince Cornelius. This God stuff is way bigger than the Roman army. Look at this. He could have done this. He could have done that. Think of all the stories he could have told about heaven. You think Rome is amazing? This morning I was in heaven. And it was like this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and this. He could have done all sorts of stuff. Oh, you don't believe me? You want to see something? And he could have picked up whatever. Picked up a house and moved it over here or done whatever. Right? What would you have him do if you were God? This angel, you want Cornelius to believe in you for the rest of his life. To powerfully submit his life to you. What would you have that angel do? Think of it. He can do absolutely anything. Right? Then we're in a church culture of testimonies. Who's got the best one? That testimony is worthy of big churches. That testimony, work on that one. Add a little more to that one. This, that, and the other. This angel could do anything. Could say anything. Could have been amazing. What was his job? You only had one job, one message. I don't know about this God. Maybe he made a mistake on this one. Think of what he could have done. Well, what did God have him do? The angel answered, your prayers and gifts to the poor have come up as a memorial offering before God. I'm reading in verse 5. Now send men to Joppa to bring back a man named Simon who's called Peter. He is staying with Simon the tanner, whose house is by the sea. That's his only message. Are you serious, God? You could have that angel do so many amazing things. Cornelius could have been so wowed. He would have had stories to tell his children and grandchildren of how amazing that angel was, and the angel only had one message. His message is, it's not my job to share the gospel. It's not my job to best tell who God is. That belongs to the redeemed. That belongs to those who have received the grace of Jesus Christ. That job doesn't belong to me. Are you hearing this? He could have done anything. But yet he had only one job, and that's to say, go get Peter. Peter understands the gospel. Peter knows the truth of Jesus in a way that I never can, even though my home is in heaven. Go get Peter. He's staying by the sea. And I don't know, maybe the culture there wasn't the same as now, but I like to think maybe he's on vacation, right? In America, I don't know, others out at the beach. He's on vacation, but it doesn't matter. And again, I'm reading into this. Maybe he wasn't on vacation. Maybe he was there for some other reason. But even if he's on vacation, maybe Peter is what? Always ready. Always ready to be used by God, and God knows it. How about you and me? Does God count you as one who's always ready? If there is a Muslim out there who wants to know about him, is he going to call your name, my name, and say, I need you to meet this person. He wants to know who I am. And you know who I am. Go share with him. I'm going to put him on your bus. I'm going to put him, well, he's going to move into your neighborhood, or I'm going to, whatever, you're going to meet at the mall, or this or that. Are we ready? Are we ready like Peter? Does God know we're ready? Does he have our name up in the front? He said, go get Peter. And what's absolutely crazy, and I don't want to take the time now to read into it, but that exact second, Peter wasn't exactly ready. These had strong religious convictions that said what? That said, I'm not supposed to share the gospel with Romans. Even though the world considers them the most powerful, we consider them unclean. We consider them unfit to get the gospel. We have our own club of people who should be hearing the gospel and who should be interested in the gospel. And he's on the outside of that club. So at that exact moment, Peter wasn't even ready to share the gospel. God looks like he really messed up. And not only did he not use the angel, who could have done an amazing, amazing job, right, impressing Cornelius and telling stories about heaven, but he called somebody who had religious convictions that make it hard for him to be the right person. But who was Peter? A person who did not have religious convictions that were stronger than the truth, and that was ready to be used by God, even if it meant something new. And so again, I don't have time to go into it, but Peter, who at the beginning of the day said, there's no way I'm going to Roman's house, by the end of the day said, here I am, God. I'm ready. If you're calling my name to share the gospel with someone, if you're putting someone in my life today to share the gospel with, even if they look very different, maybe a beggar, he's pretty unclean. Can I share the gospel from a distance? I don't want to get too close to that guy. Or whoever, I don't know. Are we ready to share the gospel with anybody that God calls us to share the gospel with? Peter, at the beginning of the day, wasn't, but he was ready to hear from God and ready to become ready. And so let's jump ahead in the story and take a look at verse 25. This is chapter 10, verse 25. As Peter entered the house, Cornelius met him and fell at his feet in reverence. You must be very, very, very important. If an impressive-looking angel, who was ready to listen to anything that an impressive-looking angel said, if he had nothing to say other than what? Other than go get Peter, must be the most amazing man ever. If the angel backed up, bowed in front of you and called you the one who has the message. And so he bowed and fell at his feet in reverence. But Peter made him get up. Stand up, he said, I am only a man myself. And again, we live in a church culture of worshiping the personalities. This person's amazing, that person's amazing, this person's amazing, that person's amazing. This man who the angel called the most amazing says what? Says there's really nothing special about me. Okay, you're right, I have a message that God's given me that I'm going to share with you. And that message is awfully important and awfully special, but I'm just a man myself. Do not honor me. Now I wish every single preacher in the world, pastor in the world, of course we are blessed to have an incredible, humble pastor who is just amazing, such a wonderful example for all of us. But we live in a church culture where that's not the case. Where many, it's about personality and this and that. And America is the worst culprit of this. Pastors are judged by how good you are, and that's how high the salary is. And they make hundreds of thousands of dollars. Hundreds of thousands of dollars for being the best pastor. And until another one passes them up, it gets more money, and then another one, and this and that. And they have to sell themselves. That's what the church culture says. And that's the people that are leading us. How sad. How sad. The church culture is built on this. People can't stand up against that and say, no, there's nothing to me. Yeah, I've worked hard. I've prepared myself to be a pastor, but there's nothing to me. It's the message. It's the gospel that's so transforming. It's not me. It's not my personality. It's not this or it's not that. And that's what Peter has to say here. And so Cornelius finishes. Let's look at 33. So I sent for you immediately, and it was good for you to come. Now we are all here, and it talks about the large crowd that he had gathered together. I got to hear what this guy has to say. We are all here in the presence of God to listen to everything the Lord has commanded you to tell us. So Cornelius assumes that angel from God who said, I've got no other message. I could have been super spectacular, but that's not what God wanted me to do. I had no other message than to say, go get Peter. And so Cornelius assumes Peter has got something amazing that God has told him to say. And what could he have said? Imagine with me again, what could Peter have said? Especially if he's in today's culture. Back before I met Jesus, I was a crazy fisherman. I used to swear all the time. I used to do this. I used to do that. I was the toughest. I was the meanest. I was the this. I was the that. I was the this. I was the that. Then Jesus came in my life. Everything changed. Is that what he shared? He didn't share that. Again, this is Peter. What else could he have shared? It's maybe one of the most amazing testimonies ever. You wouldn't believe it. I didn't believe it. But I actually denied Jesus 3 times. I denied Jesus 3 times. I didn't think I would. I thought I knew my own heart. I thought I was fully committed and loved Jesus. But my own heart deceived me. And I deceived, I denied him. I might have misspoken there. I denied Jesus 3 times. I don't deserve to be saved, but God's grace is that amazing that has saved me. He could have shared that. What a great testimony he has. He didn't. He didn't. Now, please don't mishear me. Okay? Please don't mishear me. I'm not against testimonies. If we have a testimony, let's share it. Right? Let's share it. We used to do drugs. Tell somebody. You might help somebody who does drugs, or if this or that. Share it. Share it. But let's not, as the church, lift up the most dramatic, the most spectacular testimony. This is the greatest. That needs to go to that giant church, and this and that. That's not what it's about. It's about truth. It's about truth. And again, everybody's testimony is powerful. Every testimony. And what might be considered, what the world might call the most powerful part about Peter's testimony, he used to be a rough, tough fisherman that sweared all the time. He didn't even use that. He denied Jesus 3 times. He didn't even use that. And again, he could have, but he didn't. Right? He was sharing truth. Truth that was going to transform his people. Truth that was going to help them be born again. Let's go and hear what he has to say, since this was what God sent him to say. Then Peter began to speak, verse 34. I now realize how true it is that God does not show favoritism, but accepts men from every nation who fear him and do what is right. And again, this refers back to the verses we skipped over, right? In the very beginning, he didn't even think these Romans deserved to hear the truth. Right? He had a prejudice. Maybe we